You know what's wild? The guy who killed 40 million people also had a gift for turning his worst enemies into his most loyal followers. And before you click away thinking this is just another history lesson, understand this. Genghis Khan built the largest contiguous empire in human history, not just through violence, but through a manipulation strategy so brilliant that Fortune 500 CEOs would kill to understand it. And you're about to learn exactly how he did it, and more importantly, how you can use these same tactics in your life right now. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Some of what you're about to hear is going to make you uncomfortable, because real power isn't pretty. Real influence isn't about being nice. And if you're looking for some feel-good self-help nonsense, you're in the wrong place. But if you want the truth about how to turn people who hate you into people who would die for you, then you're exactly where you need to be. And if you want more raw, unfiltered content like this that actually changes your life, instead of just wasting your time, hit that subscribe button right now. Because I promise you, what you're about to learn in the next few minutes is worth more than most people will learn in a year. So here's the thing about Genghis Khan that nobody tells you in school. Yeah, he was a conqueror. Yeah, he was ruthless. But the secret to his success wasn't just his military strategy. It was his ability to look at someone who wanted him dead and think, how do I make this person useful to me? And that's a skill you desperately need in your life right now, whether you realize it or not. Let me tell you about Genghis. This guy was Genghis Khan's childhood best friend, blood brothers. They swore oaths to each other. And then Genghis betrayed him, became his enemy, spent years trying to kill him. Most people would want revenge. Most people would want to destroy someone like that. But when Genghis finally captured Genghis, you know what he did? He offered him a position of power in his empire. He offered friendship again. Now Genghis refused and asked to be executed with honor, and Genghis respected that wish. But here's what matters. Genghis made the offer, because he understood something you need to tattoo on your brain. Your enemies have value. The person who opposes you, who challenges you, who makes your life difficult, they have something you need. And if you're too emotional, too caught up in your feelings, too busy being offended, you'll miss the opportunity. Think about your life right now. Who's your Genghis? Who's the person at work who undermines you? Who's the competitor in your business? Who's the ex-friend who talks behind your back? Now here's the hard question. What do they have that you need? What skills? What connections? What knowledge? What resources? Because here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. You're probably treating potential allies like enemies because your ego is too fragile. You're burning bridges because you value being right more than being effective. And that's why you're stuck while other people are building empires. Genghis Khan didn't have time for ego. He had a mission, and anyone who could help that mission was valuable, regardless of history. That's the first principle. Separate emotion from utility. I know it sounds cold. I know it sounds manipulative. Good it is, but it's also how the world actually works. Let me give you a real example from his life that's going to blow your mind. There was a guy named Genghis. This warrior shot Genghis Khan's horse out from under him in battle, almost got him killed. When Genghis's army won that battle and captured the warriors, Genghis stood up and admitted it. He said, I'm the one who shot your horse. I'm a good archer. If you spare me, I'll shoot your enemy's horses. If you want to kill me, that's your right. You know what Genghis did? He made Genghis one of his greatest generals. This guy became one of the most important military commanders in the Mongol Empire. Why? Because Genghis saw value. He saw skill, he saw honesty, and he saw an opportunity. Now here's where this gets practical for you. How many times have you written someone off completely because they opposed you once? How many times have you held a grudge that cost you an opportunity? How many potential allies have you turned into permanent enemies because you couldn't get over your feelings? I am going to tell you something harsh. If you're still mad at people from years ago, if you're still replaying old arguments in your head, if you're still refusing to work with someone because of past conflicts, you're weak. You're letting emotion control you, and you're poor because of it. Whether that's financially poor, socially poor, or opportunity poor. Genghis Khan's second principle was this. Create a system where former enemies have more to gain by joining you than opposing you. This is critical. You can't just ask people to switch sides. You have to make it logical for them. You have to make betraying you stupid. Here's how he did it. The Mongol Empire had a policy. If a city surrendered, they were treated well. They kept their leaders, their culture, their religion. They just paid taxes and provided soldiers. But if a city resisted and then lost, everyone died. Every single person. Genghis would use the survivors of one massacre to send the message to the next city. It was psychological warfare at its finest. Now, before you freak out, I'm not telling you to threaten people with death, but the principle applies to everything. In business, in relationships, in social dynamics. You need to make cooperation obviously beneficial and opposition obviously costly, and most people do the opposite. They make it easy to be their enemy and hard to be their friend. Think about it. Do you reward loyalty? Like actually reward it, not just expect it. Do you make it clear what people gain by supporting you? Or are you just demanding things and getting mad when people don't comply? Here's a tactical example. Let's say you have a coworker who's been taking credit for your ideas. Most people either stay silent and build resentment, or they blow up and create an enemy. Both are losing strategies. Here's the Genghis Khan approach. You pull them aside privately, you acknowledge their skills, you tell them you've noticed the dynamic, and then you offer a partnership. You say, look, we're both trying to move up here. We can either fight over scraps, or we can work together and both get promoted. I'll support your projects publicly if you do the same for me. And if you keep taking credit for my work, I'm going to make sure everyone in this office knows exactly what you're doing. And it's going to cost you everything you're trying to build. Carrot and stick, benefit and consequence, value and threat. That's how you turn enemies into allies. Genghis's third principle: prove your system works by showing results, not by arguing. The Mongols didn't try to convince people their way was better. They showed up, they won, they created prosperity in the territories they controlled. The evidence was undeniable. You want to know why people didn't just hate the Mongols forever? Because Genghis Khan actually improved life for a lot of people under his rule. He created the first international postal system. He protected trade routes. He promoted based on merit, not birth. A shepherd could become a general if he had the skill. Religious freedom was guaranteed. Women had more rights than in most of the so-called civilized world at that time. So when neighboring tribes or kingdoms looked at the Mongol Empire, they didn't just see conquest. They saw opportunity. They saw a system that worked. And smart leaders made the calculation. I can fight this and probably die, or I can join this and probably prosper. Here's how this applies to you. Stop trying to convince people you're right. Show them. Build something undeniable. Create results that speak for themselves. If you're trying to get people to follow your vision, your leadership, your business, whatever it is, arguing is weak. Proof is power. You want to turn your critics into supporters. Succeed so hard they can't ignore you. Make your life so much better than theirs that they start asking what you're doing differently. That's when people flip. Not when you debate them, but when they can't deny reality anymore. I see so many people trying to convince their family they made the right career choice. Trying to convince their friends their business idea is good. Trying to convince their partner they're capable of change. Stop talking. Start doing. Genghis Khan didn't send diplomats to explain why the Mongol way was better. He built an empire that made the benefits obvious. Fourth principle, and this is the one that's going to separate you from everyone else watching this video. Genghis Khan destroyed the old tribal system that kept people divided. He did this intentionally. He broke up the traditional clan structures and reorganized his army and society into units based on loyalty and skill, not family or tribe. Why does this matter to you? Because you need to understand that people stay enemies when their identity is tied to opposing you. If someone's self-concept, their friend group, their entire social structure is built around being against you or what you represent, they will never switch sides. You have to give them a new identity, a better one. This is deep, so pay attention. When Genghis conquered a tribe, he didn't just add them to his army. He mixed them in with other conquered tribes and his original Mongols. He forced them to form new bonds, new loyalties. He gave them a new identity. Mongol, not their old tribe. And being Mongol meant being part of something bigger, more powerful, more successful than whatever they were before. How do you do this in real life? When you're trying to win someone over, you can't just ask them to abandon their position. You have to offer them a better position, a better story about themselves, a better identity. Let us say you're a manager, and you have a team member who's resistant to new processes. They're dug in. They're the enemy of progress. You don't win by forcing them to admit they're wrong. You win by reframing their identity. You say, you know what? You're absolutely right to be skeptical. That's actually what I need from you. I need someone who thinks critically, who pokes holes in bad ideas. I want you to be the person who stress tests everything we do. That's not being resistant, that's being rigorous, and we need that. You just turned their opposition into a valuable role. You gave them a new identity that lets them save face and serve your purpose. That's manipulation at the highest level, and it works. Fifth principle. Genghis Khan was ruthlessly honest about power dynamics. He didn't pretend. He didn't sugarcoat when he offered someone a choice. It was real. Submit or die. Join us or be destroyed. And paradoxically, that honesty built trust. People knew where they stood with Genghis Khan. If he made an agreement, he kept it. If he made a threat, he followed through. That reliability, even when it was terrifying, was something people could work with. What they couldn't work with was deception and unpredictability. You need to be honest about what you want and what you're willing to do. Not aggressive, not mean, but clear. Most people are so afraid of conflict that they're vague. They hint, they manipulate passive-aggressively, and it destroys trust. Nobody can become your ally if they don't know what you actually stand for. If you want someone to work with you instead of against you, tell them directly. Here's what I'm trying to accomplish. Here's why it matters to me. Here's what I need from you, and here's what you get in return. Here's what happens if we work together, and here's what happens if we don't. Then let them choose. That clarity is magnetic. People respect it even when they don't like it, and respect is the foundation of every real alliance. Let me tell you about one more person from Genghis Khan's life. His name was Subutai. He wasn't Mongol nobility. He was the son of a blacksmith. But Genghis saw his talent and promoted him. Subutai became one of the greatest military strategists in history. He conquered more territory than any other commander ever. Why did this matter for turning enemies into allies? Because everyone in the empire knew that Genghis rewarded merit. It didn't matter where you came from. If you were useful, you rose. That meant when people joined the Mongols, even former enemies, they knew they had a real shot at success. The system was legitimate. What's your equivalent? Are you the kind of person who actually rewards people who help you? Or do you just take and wonder why nobody wants to support you? Do you give credit where it's due? Do you share success? Do you create opportunities for people who show up for you? Because here's the brutal truth. If you want to turn enemies into allies, you have to be worth joining. You have to offer something real. Genghis Khan offered protection, wealth, power, and glory. What do you offer? And be honest, because if the answer is nothing, then you're not going to win anyone over. You're just going to keep collecting enemies. The final thing I want you to understand is this. Genghis Khan's ultimate strategy was making his mission bigger than himself. People didn't just join Genghis Khan the man, they joined the Mongol Empire. They joined a vision of uniting the world under one law, one system of trade, one era of peace after the conquest was done. Whether that was propaganda or genuine belief doesn't even matter. The point is, it was bigger than personal beef. When your mission is big enough, past conflicts become irrelevant. When someone can be part of something truly significant, their ego softens. Their old grievances seem petty. This is why great leaders can unite former rivals, because they point to something beyond the interpersonal drama. What's your mission? And I don't mean your job or your goal. I mean the thing you're building that's bigger than you. Because if you can't answer that, you're just collecting transactions, not building alliances. People become allies when they believe in where you're going, not just what you can do for them today. So let me bring this all together. You want to turn enemies into allies like Genghis Khan? Here's your action plan. First, separate emotion from utility. Look at every person who opposes you and ask what value they could provide if they were on your side. Second, create clear incentives. Make joining you obviously beneficial and opposing you obviously costly. Third, prove your system works through results, not arguments. Build something undeniable. Fourth, offer people a better identity, not just a better deal. Give them a role that lets them save face and serve your purpose. Fifth, be ruthlessly honest about power dynamics. People respect clarity, even when it's uncomfortable. Sixth, actually reward loyalty and merit. Be worth joining. And seventh, have a mission bigger than yourself that makes petty conflicts irrelevant. This isn't theory. This is how empires are built. This is how movements start. This is how you go from isolated and struggling to surrounded by people who would go to war for you. And look, I know some of you are thinking this is too harsh, too manipulative, too cold. Good. Stay where you are then. Keep being nice. Keep avoiding conflict. Keep pretending that being likable is the same as being powerful. See where that gets you. But for those of you who are serious, who are tired of fighting the same battles over and over, who are ready to actually build something significant, this is the path. Genghis Khan went from being a nobody, a kid whose father was poisoned, who was abandoned by his tribe, who had nothing, to ruling most of the known world. And he did it by understanding human nature better than almost anyone in history. You have the same tools he had. You have the same psychology to work with. The only question is whether you're willing to use it. If this video gave you something valuable, if you actually learned something that can change your life, then hit that like button and subscribe. Because I'm going to keep making content like this. Content that tells you the truth instead of what you want to hear. Content that actually gives you power instead of just making you feel good for 10 minutes. The world is run by people who understand these principles. You can either learn them and compete, or you can stay ignorant and keep losing. Your choice.